On the very first panel of Transformers Issue 1 by Daniel Warren Johnson, we see a very familiar image, one of war and chaos. This drawing is a direct homage to a famous scene from the 1979 film Apocalypse Now. And while there are comparisons one could make between that film and this comic series, today's video is on a different topic. This panel sets the stage for the character of Sparky, a former soldier, now local drunk, who works at the power plant in the small town of Farmingham. Sparky drinks away his past life at a VFW bar, which stands for Veterans of Foreign Wars. This organization's primary goal is to serve veterans with multiple affairs such as recovery, hospital bills, pensions, and more. It is important that I note that not all VFW locations, or posts as they're known, are bars. So, given the images shown at the start of the comic and later in the issues, I think it's safe to say that Sparky is a veteran of the Vietnam War, or at least this world's version of that conflict. Johnson does not specifically mention the time period of war that Sparky fought in, but his inspiration is pretty clear. Sparky's life has fallen apart since the end of the war. He moved his family far away to escape his demons, and in the process, he's lost his wife and his firstborn son, Jimmy. His relationship with his remaining son, Spike, is troubled to say the least. He finds little time in his drinking routine to communicate with him. Sparky is a broken man, suffering from the ghosts of his past. While we do not see any flashbacks of his wife, we do often get glimpses into the war he fought in, as well as the death of his son, Jimmy. Fans also speculated that the tragic passing of Jimmy lines up with the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster of 1986. Again, it's unclear if these events are one and the same, as Johnson doesn't put a date on anything, but he's obviously taking inspiration from real-world events to shape his story. But both the Vietnam War and the Challenger disaster would cause anyone to struggle afterwards, as both events were traumatic, to say the least. We often associate PTSD with times of war, most likely because that is where this condition is most often found. But it's important to understand that PTSD can be caused outside of conflict. The Mayo Clinic's description reads, "Post-traumatic stress disorder is a mental health condition that is triggered by a terrifying event, either experiencing it or witnessing it. Symptoms may include flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the event." By this description alone, we can tell that Sparky is not only struggling with a disorder from the aftermath of war, but also the tragic loss of his son. Those who suffer from PTSD stemming from war are often displayed as still being stuck in a world of conflict. Whether this is accurate or not to real life, Sparky is no different in this regard. Upon witnessing the death of his friend Davy, his immediate action is to gear up for war. He dons his old uniform and helmet and reveals to readers an impressive display of weaponry. This idea is furthered when he shoots Cliffjumper twice without asking questions. In his defense, he has just seen a giant robot squish his friend, and so he is not trusting of their kind. It's only in issue number 3, where Spike is caught in the crossfire of battle, that Sparky holds his fire. Still untrusting of Optimus Prime and the others, Sparky is snapped back to reality when he realizes that his son might not live much longer. The realization that Spike may not survive brings Sparky to his lowest point. Realizing that he can no longer see the good in the world, he says that he feels infected, and without Spike, he cannot find hope. And yet, just outside the window, he is shown a reminder of what good is. Continuing on through the comic, there are several points where Optimus and Sparky are held up as comparisons to each other. Both are soldiers in a war that destroyed their lives. Both act as father figures to Spike, albeit one more literal than the other. Sparky sees how Optimus sacrifices the matrix of leadership to save not only his son, but an entire hospital of innocent people. This is the turning point for him. Issue 5 continues the parallels between Optimus and Sparky, but also carries what I personally believe to be one of the greatest lines, not only in the comic series, but in the entire Transformers franchise. You've seen so much more than me. You're from a different galaxy. Maybe you know why it has to be like this. If only the light years I've traveled equaled the wisdom I've gained, but it is not so. I ask myself that question every day, Sparky, but then I see my reflection, and I see the very thing I'm fighting against. Sparky's spirits are lifted when he learns that he has lended a hand to Wheeljack, who reveals that their combining of technology will power Farmingham for over a decade. Slowly but surely, Sparky is seeing the good in the world. He is beginning to heal. But in the heat of battle, Sparky is once again reminded of his son's death and feels the pain of helplessness. Sparky's demons arose from the war and family tragedy, but they live deeply inside of his regrets. His regrets of not doing something more. Ultimately, there are things outside of our control. Moments in our lives that must occur. But in this moment, as he sees the hero who saved his son from dying, he decides to move past his demons and act. If only it were me instead, Sparky says, as he peers into the Matrix, realizing what he must do. Not just for himself, but for his sons and for all of humanity. In this moment, Sparky overcomes his demons and acts as a true hero would. Sparky, in this moment, is small, but still mighty. Hey everybody, thanks for watching the video. Just like the disclaimer said at the very beginning of this video, if you suffer from or you know somebody who suffers from PTSD, search out for help. This video was in no way a means to help people move past their PTSD, or really even to be a deep dive into what PTSD is personally. This is 100% just a video covering the characters from the comic books. So I definitely don't want to dive too deep into it, as I'm not licensed to talk about those things. I'm not smart enough to discuss those real-world type of topics. Again, this is just me talking about a comic series that I really love. Originally, I wasn't the hugest fan of Sparky. I kind of thought, yeah, we've seen this type of character before. And then he sacrificed himself. And when that happened in the comic, I was kind of scratching my head. I was like, what? He just, huh? You know, I wasn't scratching my head as to the reasons why he did that, but the logistics as to how that worked. And I think if you as well, still to this day, are kind of looking at it going, how did that work? How on earth did that happen? You know, does that really work? We still don't have the exact answer for that, but I do think some connecting ideas can be found in the Void Rivals comic series. I've really been enjoying that series as well. I made a short here on YouTube regarding that. I think there's a lot of great connecting plot lines and ideas. That doesn't have the exact answer as to how this worked with Sparky, but I do think it starts to bridge that gap. Now looking back on Sparky, I really enjoy his character, and I really enjoy how much he is like Optimus Prime. Originally I didn't think it, I thought they were exact opposites, and yet you can see, even by the artwork alone, that they're a lot more alike than they may think. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.